Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here inside East Gymnasium at Fort Lee High School for this girls volleyball showdown in a matchup in the Big North American Division featuring the Dumont Huskies 2-9 on the season and the Fort Lee Bridgemen 9-5. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Long. So glad that you could join us here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Well, Fort Lee has a chance to close out a league title here today, as they sit with an undefeated 5-0 record atop the Big North American. And a win here would lock up the league championship, still with a couple of league showdowns still left to be played against White Morrow and Cliffside Park. Fort Lee coming in off a 2-0 win against Ridgeville Park that put them in this position. Ridgeville Park coming in ranked second along with Cliffside Park in divisional play. Dumont sits in fourth place, a 1-4 divisional record, and Dwight Morrow sitting on the bottom of the standings, 0-4. Fort Lee going to be in their home white. In the road orange is Dumont. These two sides met earlier this season back on September 12th. Fort Lee won in straight sets in two sets, 25-9, 25-21. So again, if Fort Lee dispatches the Huskies and produces their 10th win of the season, Fort Lee will bring home another league title. It'd be their 5th league championship in the last 6 seasons. The only time that they have not won in recent history was last season when they lost against Cliffside Park. Bella Plout, 19 digs away from history as we get underway here today with her serving. And there's a spike finish in front of the net there for Dumont. And the Huskies will take the early lead. Looks like it was Yuki Morimoto. Correction, it was Alexis Barbie, number 9, who scored that first winner. Fort Lee trying to control this one with Lorelei Gomez pushing it across the net. And that's going to be a winner in the back right corner for Fort Lee, their first point of the afternoon. We said we might be witness to history here today as Bella Plout coming in, closing in on a milestone. She'd become the first ever volleyball player in Fort Lee history to accomplish a career total of at least 1,000 digs. And Gomez has that one deflect off of the blocker in front of the net, out of bounds. Brianne Cabrera was trying to time her jump against Gomez, but deflected it off the side of her hand. So 2 unanswered points here for Fort Lee, and the Bridgemen take a 2-1 advantage. That time, mishit. Barbie was trying to get down low to loft that one, get a little elevation underneath it. Fort Lee, 3 in a row. They lead 3-1. Service again by the sophomore Samantha Song. Dumont with 2 wins on the season, trying to come here and spoil what would be another championship celebration. But Gomez and the Bridgemen are off and running in the early goings here in the opening set. That's 4 in a row, and they lead 4-1. Wins this season for Dumont came against Dwight Morrow and Palisades Park. That Dwight Morrow win was their only league win of the season. And there's a service ace for Samantha Song. All Fort Lee in the early goings of this opening set. 5 in a row after Dumont led 1-0. It's 5-1 Bridgemen. Fort Lee had a dominating win in the opening set of the first matchup of the year. 25-9 against the Huskies. Fort Lee not also trying to track down a league title, but want to keep on accumulating as many power points as possible. The playoffs on the horizon. And that's going to be a point for Dumont. 5-2 lead for Fort Lee. Fort Lee currently ranks 8th in power points in North 1 Group 3. Rampo and Northern Highlands, the two teams ranking in the top of the power points in that section. Drop shot attempt. Dumont doing a good job of getting to that. Fort Lee, quick movement to get it up and over. Watanabe, the freshman. Cat-like reflexes in front. Gomez being set up by Wong. Good dig there on the back line by Dumont, and eventually the Huskies secure the point. Jessica Saratella, number 3, was the one who dove on that back line to keep the play alive, and eventually the winner by Kaylin Lowak. 2 in a row by Dumont. They're back to within 2 at 5-3. Blount will get it over. And a point. Point for Dumont after a carry was called for Fort Lee. So it's now been a run of 3 in a row for the Huskies after Fort Lee had a 5-1 advantage. That's been shrunk to 5-4. Gomez hits it too long. 5 in a row for Dumont. So the Huskies have gone on a nice run here to pull back even. They led early 1-0. Fort Lee went on a 5-0 run of their own. Now Dumont trying to recapture a lead for only the second time in this opening set, and they'll get it as the Bridgemen struggling to get it over. So after a hot start, now both teams trading 5-0 runs. Dumont with a 5-0 spurt of their own. They take a 6-5 advantage. Dug out in the back line. That was Gabrielle Zamora, the libero, the other side for Dumont. And that's going to be a point for Fort Lee, as it looked like it deflected into the antenna attached to the net, and that would signal that that was out of play. Six your score in the opening set. Fort Lee trying to recapture the advantage. As it's leveled up, and Dumont unable to return that one. Goes out of bounds. 7-6 lead now here for Fort Lee. So was it a case of Dumont was out of rotation and an extra point given here for Fort Lee before they could even serve it? 8-6 advantage now for the Bridgemen. Here again in set number 1, as that is unable to be tracked down on the far side. That deflects out of bounds, and it's going to be a 9-6 advantage now here for Fort Lee. So the Bridgemen starting to build up their lead yet again. Deflected at the front of the net. Pagan had just come in, and then a quick finish there in front of the net by Alexis Barbie, number 9. 9-7 lead for Fort Lee. And again, Fort Lee, a little miscommunication there after they vacated the position in front. Falls down in front of the net, 9-8 lead for Fort Lee. And that's going to be a service ace for the Huskies just in front of that back line. So every time that there's a little separation that Fort Lee has created so far in this opening set, credit the resilience of Dumont of battling back and tying it up, this time at 9-9. That one goes out just a little too long there. 10-9 lead for Fort Lee. As Plout will come out momentarily in this match. Luna Sugahara will come on to serve for the Bridgemen, with Fort Lee leading 10-9. Setting it up to the near side. Nice cross-court winner there for Sarah Wong. As Wong has moved the F for the Fort Lee advantage to 2 at 11-9 here in the opening set. Again, each team has already traded 5-0 spurts. Fort Lee led by as many as 4 at 5-1. Dumont only led once when it was 1-0. Pagan gets it over. Dumont now trying to set it up themselves. Good move there by Cabrera, just getting it over the outstretched hands. Wong trying to diagnose it into the back left corner. Good volley here between the two sides, setting up O on the far side. Could not finish it off as Dumont tracks it down, but a little too long that time for Dumont. That shot goes high and wide and goes out of bounds for a point, and it's back to a 3-point advantage here for Fort Lee at 12-9. Dug out in the back line there by Dumont. Deflected in front of the net. Watanabe gets to it. Song setting it up for Wong. Wong has it ricochet off the fingertips of the players in the front line for Dumont. And Fort Lee has gained a semblance of control again here, moving that advantage to a 4-point margin, tying their largest lead of this opening set. Sprawling effort of the back line there for Dumont to avoid the ace. Deflected to the top of the net. Here's Wong setting it up. Pagan tries to fire that one, and she does. In front. Gets that one to go. As the sophomore scores the point, Fort Lee enjoys their largest lead at 14-9. Sugahara, low-lining serve. Dumont gets to it just in time to get it over. Wong. What a delivery there on the pinpoint placement in the back left corner. (15-9). And a timeout's going to be taken on the floor. Fort Lee on top of Dumont, 15-9 in the opening set. As the Bridgemen have gone on another sustained run, and we'd like to thank our proud Bridgemen athletic sponsors, as seen on your screen, for helping us bring you the sights and sounds of all different athletic events throughout the course of the school year. (15-9) advantage here in the opening set for Fort Lee. Looking for their 6th divisional win of the season, with a chance to clinch outright the league title. Trickles off, and it's going to be a point this time for Dumont, as Bella Plout will come back onto the floor. As technically, Fort Lee can't clinch outright just yet. They'd have to wait until next match against Dwight Morrow to do that. But they'll be heavy favorites in that matchup. And there's a nice finish in front, as Pagan using that height to just quickly tap it up and over the net. Another point in front here for Fort Lee, 16-10 advantage. As Sarah Wong, the senior, will serve. Wong with a low service. A double block, but it actually went backwards against Fort Lee's front line. So a point there for Dumont. And Kaylin Lowak, the freshman, who had 6 digs and 2 kills against Fort Lee back on September 12th. Wong setting up as that one popped skyward by Zamora. Wong again setting up O. And once again tracked down by the libero Zamora. And that goes out of bounds on the far side. And a point on the board once again for Fort Lee, who extend their lead to a 6-point margin at 17-11. Set up to the near side. Oh, has that trickle off the fingertips up front. 18-11 now. Fort Lee starting to pull away here in set number 1. There's a service ace. Unreturnable that time for the Huskies. Great serve that time by Sydney Kim, the senior, who had 10 aces on the season coming into play today. Dumont gets it over. Plout setting it up for Fort Lee, and eventually it's hammered home. A point inbounds just in that back right corner. Another dig that time for Bella Plout. Moving closer and closer to a milestone. Quick move that time by Dumont, trying to get it up and over before Fort Lee could be set defensively. Good job by the front line of the Bridgemen, getting ready. Zamora diving forward. Dumont trying to set it up in front. And that is taken down by Anello Watanabe. The freshman with the two-hand approach just spiked it down. Unreturnable, 21-11, the lead now for Fort Lee. That service too long that time by Kim. So the point will go over to Dumont, and the Huskies will serve as well. Basil Susana will serve for Dumont as Plout got it over. Here's Wong setting up. Gomez, just a little tap right up and over the net. Fort Lee in front by 10. Bella Plout will serve now. And Dumont unable to return it. Point off the service. 23-12 as Fort Lee closing in on an opening set win. Dumont able to split that front line and score a point there courtesy of Alexis Barbie, who had the opening point that gave Dumont their only lead of this opening set at 1-0. Davisha Jane has come into the match for the first time, as well as Ava Carres, as Plout was trying to dive forward to make that stop. That one falls in between a pair of Huskies. And now we're at set point here for Fort Lee at 24-14. Fort Lee a point away from taking the opening set here against Dumont in this Big North American Divisional game. Barbie's shot too long as that goes out of bounds, and it's 25-14. The opening set going to Fort Lee. They only trailed once, and that's when it was 1-0. Fort Lee went on a run. Credit Dumont for coming back in that one a couple times, but then Fort Lee went on a prolonged run to give themselves a little more separation, and they take set number one, 25-14. So stick around, fans, as we'll take a break before coming back for the start of set number two, as Fort Lee one set away from clinching at least a share of the Big North American Divisional title. So about to get started for the start of set number two. Again, Fort Lee victorious in set number one over Dumont, 25-14. Another victory in a set here today would claim the match for the Bridgemen. And in doing so, at least a share of the Big North American Division title. If Cliffside Park were to lose another match this year, as well as if Fort Lee wins just one more match after this one, the Fort Lee with the outright league title. Dan Long, so glad that you could join us here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel for another edition of Bridgeman Volleyball. Fort Lee 9-5 on the season, Dumont 2-9 coming into play today. Dumont is in orange on your screen. They will be starting with service to begin set number two. Fort Lee in their home white will be defending to the left side here inside East Gymnasium. Dumont will start off with the service. Isabella Ruiz was serving. There's Bella Plout setting up Wong. Wong in front. Dug out that time by Dumont, preventing that first point going the way of the Bridgemen. Wong setting up Margaret O to the far side. And Dumont unable to return it. One 0 lead for Fort Lee to begin set number two. As Plout will now serve. And Dumont unable to return it. So Bella Plout will continue her work here as a server. Again, she's on the precipice of history in terms of career digs. We might be witness to that relatively soon. set up to the near side. There's Sung. She finds the vacated spot on the floor. And another point here for Fort Lee. They open up set number 2, a 3-0 advantage. A little bit of a misplay there, mistimed jump, and that's to the benefit of Fort Lee. All Bridgman here, the start set number 2, 4-0 advantage. Gomez getting it right over and unable to be returned there by Dumont. 5-0 lead for Fort Lee. Lout continues to serve. And Dumont having a couple little struggles in front. Miscommunication not allowing a couple of the Huskies to get some air underneath those opportunities. 6-0 lead here for Fort Lee. Loud will continue to serve, one of the leaders for this Fort Lee program, 4-year member of the Varsity. Watanabe, too hot to handle, unable to be returned. As Fort Lee is in cruise control right now, the way they've started out here, this is exactly what Coach John Ziemba would have been looking for. He wanted his team to play with an intensity, with an urgency, especially after capturing that first set. And that's what they've done there. Huskies on the board here for the first time in set number 2. It's a 7-1 lead for the Bridgmen. Kelly Sprengel D'Onofrio is the head coach of Dumont. John Ziemba, who's led the Bridgmen to a sectional championship in 2021 and looking for his 5th league title in the last 6 seasons. Flat will just get it over. And drifting away in the far side was Dumont, unable to get to it. Samantha Song will now serve. 8-1 lead for the Bridgmen. Zamora twisted around, but eventually got it to her teammate to get it up and over. Gomez has that ricochet off of the defender, out of bounds. Another point here for Fort Lee at 9-1. And that's going to be a service ace. It just fell in between the two backline defenders. And it looks like it's going to be a timeout taken on the floor as Fort Lee has vaulted themselves to a 10-1 lead here in the start of the second set. As Fort Lee in control. And again, we'd like to thank all of our proud sponsors here of Fort Lee Bridgman Athletics, seen on your screen. Ten-1 advantage here for Fort Lee. Out of the timeout will be service still here for the Bridgmen. They won the opening set 25-14, trying to sweep Dumont in the regular season. A win would put Fort Lee at 6-0 in divisional play. That would give Fort Lee a share of the Big North American Division title at least, with a chance to clinch it outright in their next contest. So another point in front. 11-1 advantage now here for Fort Lee. And Dumont unable to track it down. Fort Lee powers through. 12-1 advantage now for the Bridgmen. Again, Fort Lee coming in ranked 8th in power points in North 1 Group 3. Finish in the top 8, you'll guarantee yourself at least one home match in the postseason. So a milestone has been achieved. Just got official word. With that point, that is the 1,000th career dig for Bella Plout. The first one in Fort Lee volleyball history to ever achieve that type of milestone.
The one went flying to the ceiling, but the reason we're out here, and thank you to the Dumont team, is Bella Plout, our starting libero, senior captain. Bella just got her 1,000th dig in Fort Lee volleyball history. And as the coach here for a very, very long time, we've never had 1,000 of anything. Kills, digs, anything. And she is far and away our all-time leader. She's going to be a three-time All-League player. She's our 2-year captain. And somebody hold up a number 1 with their finger or something. All right. But again, it's a tremendous feat. And let's give it one more round of applause to Bella.
So again, Bella Plout achieving history here in the rich tradition of Fort Lee volleyball, becoming the first player to ever achieve 1,000 of any type of career statistic. 1,000 career digs for number 1 in black. Just achieving that mark here after Fort Lee stormed out to a 13-1 advantage here in the second set. Congratulations to Bella. Over 230 digs coming into today's match. She had 17 digs in the first matchup against Dumont, reaching that milestone here in set number 2. As you can see, the balloons that are being held up by some of her teammates. The number 1 balloon ascended to the top of the gymnasium here. So you just have 3 zeros, but we can assure you 1,000 was the milestone that was reached by Bella Plout, and congratulations to her. She wants her team to finish up strongly here and clinch a share of the league title at least before thinking about winning it outright in their next match in league play against Dwight Morrow on October 14th. Great, though, to have her in front of family and friends here at East Gymnasium reach that vantage point. And that ricochet goes all the way out of bounds past the end line. 15-1. Fort Lee on top. Song will continue to serve. Set up inside Watanabe. Zamora tracking it down. Ruiz gets it over. Song to Wong. Wong once again so efficient whenever she's been trying to just set up a kill in the back corner. She has been able to have eyes on that side, and Dumont has just not been able to track down any of those offerings. 16-6 lead here for Fort Lee. Blocked out in front, but into the net. So it's going to be a point here for Dumont. Service error into the net. Another point here for Fort Lee. They extend their lead to a 15-point margin in the second set. Anela Watanabe serving. Part of the future here, as only a freshman, has been dynamic in her debut season. Gomez shot that one a little too long, as that'll go out of play. Dumont with the points and back with the service. Dumont will head home for their next match on October 9th as they'll play host to the Highwaymen of Teaneck High School before hitting the road for 3 in a row against Mahwah, Ridgefield Park, and Saddlebrook. Nice diving effort there on the back line by Saratella. Wong, a rare misfire there for Sarah as she hits into the top lip of the net. Fort Lee will be back home here tomorrow to play host to Bergenfield before hitting the road at Dwight Morrow in what could be the league championship clinching match. Again, a win here today would give them at least at worst a share of the league title. A win against Dwight Morrow would be the outright championship. And a point there for Fort Lee, who now lead 18-4. Coach Siemba has built something pretty special here. Again, zeroing in on the 5th league title in the last 6 seasons. The model of consistency here for the Bridgemen. Saved at the front of the net there by Sonia Yurchenko, who's come into the match for the first time. Haley Sue is also there, number 15. Here's Yurchenko. Dumont doing a nice job with Zamora. Diving effort by Watanabe. She'll now get it over after it was saved in the front of the net. Good volley between the two sides. Double deflection. Diving effort there by a pair of Bridgeman players, and eventually it leads to a point in front of the net. Great hustle there by Fort Lee. Eventually it leads to the finish right in front of the net by the Bridgemen. Sophia Sung Jr. will serve. All the lineup getting into the match here today. Good cross-court winner there for Dumont on the diagonal win, right in front of Coach Siemba on that far sideline. Well, getting down low. Eventually Wong setting it over. Miss hit in the front of the net. Point goes over to Fort Lee as the Bridgemen are 5 points away from capturing the match. Trying to go to 10-5 with a win here today. Long miss hit that one into the net. And Fort Lee victorious. They would go to 6-0. In league play. Deflected around. In front of the net, kept alive by Dumont. Too many hits there, and it's going to be a point there for the Bridgemen. So Fort Lee, nice work in front of the net. Again, great to see some of the reserves getting some playing time here for Coach Diemba's side on a day where they're about to clinch a share of the league title. We saw history being made with Bella Plout becoming the first player in Fort Lee volleyball history to accomplish the milestone of 1,000 career digs. A special afternoon, and great news as well, as a patron was able to track down the #1 balloon to now finally finish off that 1,000 in gold. So now the official talking things over with Coach Ziemba. So I think it was an illegal substitution violation against Fort Lee. So a point in service going over to Dumont after all of that. I think the most pressing concern was the recovery of the missing #1 balloon. So now they've corrected the score to read officially 20-7. So now things have been sorted out and corrected, and we're back to the course of play. Fort Lee 5 points away from capturing the match. Dumont tracks it down. Wong sing up Song in front of the net. Good block. Plout trying to track it down in front of Yurchenko. Could not get to it in time as it skims off her hands. And a point there for Dumont. Anastasia Yushko, #16, also into the match for the first time for Fort Lee. #16 right in the middle. And that shot too long there by Yurchenko. So Dumont's gone on a bit of a run here near the end of the second set. Back to within 11 at 20-9. And a service error that time will give Fort Lee the 21-9 lead. As Bella Plout will serve. Miss 1,000 digs. And again, congratulations to her. Awesome that she got to be here in East Gymnasium and celebrate with her mom and dad and any family tuning in. Congratulations to Bella and her family on this incredible milestone. 23-9 advantage now for Fort Lee, 2 points away from capturing the match. Dumont gets it over with Ruiz. Gomez. Kind of mistimed her jump there and sliced it. Didn't get it up and over. So 23-10 is the margin. I'd like to thank all of our great sponsors again for their constant support of allowing us to bring you the sights and sounds of Fort Lee athletics through all 3 sports seasons. Quick move in front of the net. Nice move there by Samantha Song. The sophomore has put her team at match point, 24-10 here in the second set. And Song will now serve. And Dumont unable to track it down, and Fort Lee victorious 25-10 in that second set. And they win the match 25-14, 25-10. With the victory, Fort Lee will improve to 10-5 on the season. Dumont will fall to 2-10. And congratulations to the Fort Lee Bridgemen, who have clinched at least a share of the 2025 Big North American Division League title as they move to 6-0 on the season. Again, one more win in league play. They have 2 league matches remaining against Dwight Morrow and then Cliffside Park. One more win out of those 2, or a Cliffside Park loss, will assure the outright league title. But nonetheless, Fort Lee sees history here made by Bella Plout, becoming the first Bridgman to ever reach 1,000 career digs in volleyball history. Congratulations to her. Congratulations to Coach Ziemba on another league title, the 5th league title in the last 6 seasons. So that'll do it for our broadcast coverage here from East Gymnasium. For everybody here at Fort Lee, I'm Dan Long saying so long and thanks for watching here on the Fort Lee Bridgman Athletics Channel.